What's up, guys? Shawn, Myszka, Movement Mastery and OptimizedMovement.com coming to you with another quick tip. And again, we're in front of the whiteboard, and most of you know what that means. We're talking about concepts, scientific concepts that are going to have great application for all of us when it comes to developing and acquiring movement mastery as well as optimizing movement. And today we're talking about the idea and concepts of attractors versus fluctuations. This is a very intriguing topic to me, especially when we look at some of the ideas that we've talked about in the past in regards to the movement optimization model and the process of attaining or optimizing movement. Now, the ideas of attractors versus fluctuations is often discussed, or it's a part of that which is discussed in regards to the dynamic systems theory of motor learning, which can contain a great deal of intriguing information and impactful information for us within regards to that process of attaining movement mastery. Attractors and fluctuations are often discussed in most of the material that's out there by Franz Bosch, an expert, a great expert that I would implore you and maybe have implored you in the past to seek out and look at and investigate. But usually he talks about these ideas in regards to linear locomotion. But I'm going to try to explain how I've come to think about it and understand attractors and fluctuations and some of the thoughts with dynamic systems theory, while offering implications for you in regards to the movement optimization process. Now, when we talk about or look at attractors and fluctuations, I first want to start by defining what each one of them is. The attractors that we discuss are often the stable components of any movement pattern which we want to and need to train for. We want to make them as consistent as humanly possible because they often change very, very little based on the environment or even based on individual needs. In contrast, the fluctuations are those variable components of any given movement pattern which are varying rep by rep, situation by situation, dependent on the environmental challenges and what the environment is offering to us. So what we can find then is it's often displayed based on a landscape that is going to be shown or displaying how solidified the technical execution is at that given respective moment in time. So what I've done is I've drawn this landscape and how it's ever changing as an athlete is moving or trying to acquire greater levels of sport and movement mastery. So this is the same movement pattern just being displayed with a change over time. Okay, it could be year 1, year 2, year 3, however it is that we want to look at it in that regards. And here we see the attractors in the fluctuations. So the attractors in green, the same attractor here, the fluctuations then in red. And notice as it gets more and more established, the fluctuations have greater fluctuation ability, but the attractors get a deeper and deeper well, and they get more and more solidified as we go throughout time. Now, this relationship between the attractors and fluctuations are very, very important and imperative to us. The key to this is the identification of, in a respective movement pattern, if this is acceleration or deceleration or change of direction or the act of throwing, whatever it might be, is the key to this relationship between the two essentially will tell us how established and solidified the biodynamic structure of that respective technical execution actually is. But the key to this, like I was just getting to, is the identification of what aspects of the movement pattern, whatever movement pattern it is, or what actions of that movement pattern can be stable attractors. So what can be stable attractors here? Which ones are the green ones? And which ones can be looked at as fluctuations of the given movement pattern. The variable things and the variable components that can be changing dependent on the environment and depending on that athlete's particular strengths and weaknesses, anthropometric features, who they are as a human being, their movement fingerprint, if you will. The unfortunate part for us is most of this is still highly speculative in a lot of different sport movements, skills, patterns, and actions. So it's something that we need to continue to think about. But what we do know is that no matter what, we need to have our training process be one that's both highly specific as well as then variable when we're able to go back to. So that's why I kind of drew this over on the side. I want you to think about this process as one and the same, or just a microcosm of that which is occurring here in a graph that you guys have seen me explain before, where we talk about the ever-changing motor potential going from one to more general to more specific, along with the technical execution getting more masterful, moving from one of more variable display to one of more solidified nature. And so really this whole thing is something that's occurring here with the technical mastery as we look to determine those things which are attractors or fluctuations depending on our respective movement skill. Okay? So I want you to think back to this process of movement mastery or movement optimization, the movement optimization process that we've talked about just recently. We want to think about being deliberate about the attractors and adding environmental challenges as we go along so the athlete can get more comfortable with these fluctuations, these ever-changing fluctuations, and we know that's what sport is still about. Because in my opinion, movement mastery, I want you to think about this in your own head, because my perception or opinion of it definitely is changing and evolving as well, as we all should. But the way I think about it now is movement mastery will always come back to that athlete's ability to adjust on the fly. And adjust on the fly to the fluctuations of the sport environment, all while proficiently performing the attractor aspects, okay? Getting more masterful as time goes on, and getting a deeper and deeper well with different aspects that are necessary for the increase of proficiency or the increase of movement optimization for a respective movement task. But we want to always look toward being able to perform that movement no matter what the environment gives us in the most efficient biomechanical and neuromuscular ways. But that movement mastery then is going to be dependent on movement ownership and increasing levels of virtuosity. And what I mean by that is being able to have the athlete develop the ability to be self-sufficient while having an increased ability to modulate for errors. Because we know that most sport movement tasks, even those that are relatively pre-programmed and relatively repetitive, are still going to be dependent somewhat on the fluctuations here of the respective sport. And as that athlete sees a change in the conditions of the environment of the sport, we know that that athlete's response, it needs to be more and more automated to use those attractors and fluctuations in a landscape such as this in the most efficient and sufficient way when and where it counts, which is in sport. This whole idea here, the attractors and the fluctuations, is determining how the kinesiological pattern that we've talked about in the past with the movement optimization model is going to contribute, the changes to the environment are going to contribute to the displayed characteristics of the movement pattern and how optimal an athlete can be and how it influences the biomechanics, the neuromuscular aspects as well, and then the kinetics or the working effect. So the overall biodynamic structure is going to be changing based on these attractors and fluctuations. So they're things that we as movement professionals need to continue to think about. We need to continue to investigate, and we got to kind of put ourselves out there on a limb because some of them aren't that established as of yet. I'll continue to elaborate upon these topics and this idea here of attractors versus fluctuations with some things that I would believe to be true, as well as some of the things that I've seen from Bosch in regards to linear locomotion here over the next number of weeks/months. But hopefully these things will start to make some sense for you, because I think it's a topic that's not only an intriguing one, but it's one that's imperative for us to think about. So for Shawn Myszka, Movement Master and OptimizeMovement.com, this has been another quick tip. Till next time, Movement Masters, let's go out and get it, and let's all continue to master the art of optimizing movement.